Hello, it's November 9th, 2021. It's a weekly SIG Node meeting. Welcome, everybody. Today, agenda Vinay in place pod vertical scaling. Is Vinay here? I forgot to check.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry, just stepped away for a minute. So what was the question?
Your item is first on agenda.
Okay.
If you want to start with that.
Yeah, okay. I think this is mostly a status update and check on where we are with getting the reviews done. So it looks like what we have. I was in the SIG Node meeting last week and discussed the changes that Wang Wei, the SIG lead for, SIG scheduling. Still haven't had my coffee yet. Okay, the SIG scheduling meeting where they had requested some changes. I did that over the weekend. I think I was able to figure it out myself without needing any help from anybody else. And so far, it looks like we should be on track to getting a sign off from SIG scheduling. I'm going to ping Wang Wei sometime this week and see where he is at. We need. I don't know if Alana had a chance to look at my changes in the kubelet, mainly catching up with the latest code. There were some changes with the memory QoS part of it, which I needed to look at closely. And then one of the changes was that Lantau had requested was not to store V1 resources in the container status, the kube container status, which I did, storing it in the resource in a platform agnostic way for now. And using that to compare when we call. The changes that he had requested to call get pod status before doing the comparison check for compute resize, that didn't work. I tried it, it didn't work.
Vinay,
yeah.
I don't think that we need to go over every detail of the PR in this meeting. I will say I have started reviewing it. I spent about an hour on it and I got halfway through one commit. So it's very, very large. It's going to take some time. I have found some stuff in the API review already, and I haven't even started looking at the actual kubelet implementation. So I'm sure people will look at it because it's very large and because, again, this kind of like wasn't really marked for ready for review until like kind of late in the cycle. I don't want you to like necessarily get your hopes up too much that this is going to land. Like I found at least a few relatively large things thus far, but I am doing my best to get it reviewed. I'm sure other folks are as well, and hopefully we'll see where it gets.
Yeah, I also reviewed the kubelet part this morning, and I think I mentioned several issues before, and based on my understanding, most of them are. So for the code refactoring, I mean the code cleanup part, I think you already addressed most of them. Yeah. And in terms of the architectural or logical improvement, I think most of them you just added to do for beta, which could be fine, but still I think there are still two open comments not resolved, and especially for the pod cache thing, because I don't think the behavior is correct. I think it may introduce risk conditions. So I hope that which exactly the thing you mentioned, the get pod status before diff, and I don't quite understand why it didn't work. I just posted a comment on your change, so please take a look and reply there, and we can discuss on your PR.
Okay. Let's see if we can get traction on this and Slack, then we can figure it out this week. I'll if you have time for a Zoom call, I can go over why it didn't work. And the API, I don't think there's any changes. Tim Hawken had already signed off on it last.
I didn't see an actual API approval. I saw kind of a soft yes, so I went through and reviewed and I caught a few more things. So
Tim has already approved it. He gave a LGTM back in July.
Yeah, there have been many changes since then, Vinay, so it still needs to go through another round of review. I'm one of the Node API reviewers, and I found some issues, so I'm going to submit them. Hopefully you'll get a chance to look at them.
I'm busy, so if it's major change, it won't happen. This is not the only thing I'm doing.
Yeah, I think
it's been dragging on for so long, and when we get close, another set of changes come in, and we revisit this whole thing. This is crap. It's really getting. We need to figure things out here.
Is close. And there's a bunch of work that needs to get done. As Lanta said, and I noticed these things in my last review before, there are a bunch of architectural issues with how this is wired into the kubelet. We appreciate your patience, but it has to meet the code quality bar. So.
Sorry, I was sick, and so I think that everyone do their best. I understand the delay, and this is a drag too long because like more than 2 years. But Alana is our API reviewer from the SIG Node, and she raised some concern. I think that Alana also because don't know the background, the context. So can Alana share your concern about API level stuff? Then we can see that how we are going to sorry, best continue move forward, because there's also because from this particular feature, and we may already receive of the approval last round. So expectation, we can understand expectation is set from move forward from based on the API approval. But we all understand during the development phase, we may find more issue during that. So software always have to iterate, right? So I understand what's the VNA came from, and because it's been so long, and it's really expected Kubernetes. So that's why from last release expected Kubernetes and the node level of the change. So so let's share of the comment and see what can be moved forward to enable of the alpha, and what have to address by the alpha. Is that okay? And and I understand right now it's like it's very tough for everyone, and because many people join, and for relay this is take long, and for Atlanta because it's just pick up this one, and all of a sudden, and so some of the background, the context don't know, and but because analysis represent of the signal for the APIs, sorry, know the level of the API change. So there's the huge responsibility. So we need to care about of the maintenance long term and also reliability. So from the different perspective, there are different opinion. Let's just share from the PR and carry on from the chat and also offline discussing and type together. Is that okay?
I think Vinay may have dropped from the call. So yeah, we definitely need to move it forward. And I just checked the list of all PRs, all caps for this milestone. And we have similar situation for many of them that are not currently merged. We have like 2 or 3 merged already, like ephemeral containers, pod resources API extension, and CPU manager for extension, like improvement. But all other, like they changing all the time. There is like gRPC improvement that is very straightforward cap, but even that cap, like just last week, team improved the API of pod spec, so handlers will be separate. So this PR needs to be rebased now and re-reviewed again. So yeah, it's always something happening, and I'm afraid that since code freeze is very soon, we may miss many caps in this milestone. So this is unfortunate reality. Yeah, I also want to make sure that everybody understands we're also working on a couple of deprecations right now. Like Docker Shim is going to be deprecated next release, so we need to help customers there. And dynamic kubelet config, we also want to clean up this code, and it also takes time of maintainers and people contributing. Okay, let's move on to next. I think Runal, pod admission handler. Manu, it's Manu. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
Can everyone see me? I just wanted to follow up on the KEP that we had, and Derek had a few questions, like why can't we use native? So let me give a bit of context first. I'm from AWS and we run Fargate. We provide EKS Fargate, and EKS Fargate does not allow privileged pods today. We have written like code internally, which would basically scan the pod spec and see if it's a privileged context or not. And through a admit handler, it would reject that pod. We want to upstream that as form of plugins. So what we want to do is essentially introduce a admit handler that would talk to certain plugins that can only understand node level properties. That could be like if a node cannot support privileged pod, as in the case of Fargate, then it would reject it. That's the context. The background is that Derek asked the question where why can't we use daemon sets or static pods or anything else. I went, and this is a follow up to that background, is essentially like that's not possible because in case of Fargate, the cluster administrator is the customer itself, but like the underlying hardware is owned by AWS. So if you use any kind of admission policies, any cluster administrator can change those. Also, even daemon sets cannot be like privileged, or static pods cannot be privileged as of today. Like that is what we think. That is how we think about things. So questions so far?
Yeah, I remember you also showed the slide deck last time you've been here, and so you got an update on enhancement. Did you answer the questions?
I have not like updated it. So the language is the only thing that's left, but I wanted to make sure like the use cases are clear. I can share my screen and I can show where I am at KEP, but like in terms of alternatives, is there anything that I need to think about, as well as to like like I wanted to see like if this in general sounds useful to like in terms of use cases as well. So that's one. The second thing is like if we as in like AWS would finish the KEP by the end of this year, like our version, and then send for approvals, can we possibly finish? When would, like, assuming everything goes well, how soon should I get the code as a PR out so that it's fairly understandable, so that I can go and like plan out as well with other folks?
Yeah, if you put some use cases, maybe you can review them and read them offline. I think we discussed last time that there are definitely some use cases. We just need to understand how it fits into other priorities and whether we can prioritize it and run with that. So yeah, if you put use cases, let's review them offline.
Yeah.
And as you see right now, everybody busy with current release. So I think you may expect some reviews after like code freeze for this milestone at least.
So yeah, the way I was thinking about it was like probably by December, we would do our part through the KEP and everything. And next we would target it for 1.24 so that everyone gets some breathing room. I don't want us to discuss and get it reviewed right now. I just wanted to make sure like take some action items for myself and like get it if there's any that from so far whatever I have communicated, I can address those when I send out the next revision. That's all my expectation is. It's not like
yeah, one thing you may want to do is to go to SIG security and talk with them to understand, like, I mean, your pod admission thing will allow some like to secure your workload. So you want to protect one actor from another actor, and that may need some security considerations. So it's just a small advice what you can do before continuing with KEP reviews.
Definitely. That is.
It really depends on what kind of promises you want from this plugin to give you, and what kind of security you expect. So yeah, that might be a good forum for you to discuss that.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it in. I think next one is Mrunal and myself. We need to discuss this KEP and PR to switch CRI API to V1. So right now there is a agreement that latest PR from Sasha is something that looks promising, the most promising. The problem with this PR, I mean, it was discussed, and I think it's in a decent shape right now. The problem with this PR is it will put users of V1 Alpha 2 at disadvantage because those APIs will run slower. So everybody using Kubernetes 1.22 with 1.5 as it is today will get slower performance. So they will pay for. Yeah, thank you for posting it in the chat as well. Yeah, they have a performance disadvantage. And the real question we want to understand is what kind of timelines we have for Containerd. So Containerd 1.6 needs to be released, so customers at least has this option. And ideally 1.5, there is a PR in 1.5 Containerd to backport V1 support. And we want to understand how to, like, can we release this hotfix at least at the same time as Kubernetes will be released. Otherwise, once Kubernetes is released, every Containerd user may be at disadvantage because of the performance hit. Ron, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, and I think that this is for 123, right? Like ideally, as you said, right? Like I feel the right way really is if you want to support it on the 1.5x to get that V1 proto added, like it's exactly the same. So I don't feel like super motivated, and as we discussed in the previous meetings, like the kubelet and the community having to bear the overhead of maintaining two versions of the CRI, both in terms of additional code and in terms of the performance overhead. So unfortunately, Mike is out today, so I'm not sure we'll get an answer. Maybe we can just sync with him on the timelines for the port to 1.5 and what the release for 1.6 is looking like.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. Like, if theoretically we postpone it to 1.24, and it will be like Docker shim removal and V1 as transition at the same time, and by that time we will sure have Containerd released and ORD in use. How much it will, like, how bad will it be? Like, is there some disadvantage with this approach?
The disadvantage really is just we are just delaying it even more. Other than that, I don't see a huge disadvantage.
And from CRI perspective, can you easily switch back and forth if needed? Or you support both, basically?
Yeah, we are supporting both, but like we want to just stick to V1. Like as soon as V1 is merged, we'll get rid of the V1 Alpha 2 and we'll just stick with V1.
Yeah,
because we're tied with the kubelet release. So.
Yep. Okay, so let's get some. Let's wait for Mike to come back and understand what's the timeline for releases. Okay. It's my only concern. I think all other concerns were addressed in this PR. So if we can get Containerd like releases lined up, we can go ahead.
Yep.
Is there any other comments?
Hopefully. Yeah, we can hash it out this week, hopefully. Yeah.
In practice, this performance hit is not big enough, right? So it's most of the user most probably will not even notice it.
Potentially, I mean, it's deserialization on every extra deserialization on every CRI call. It may be.
Yeah, I understand that. But on our hand, like many users are still using the Docker shim, and Docker shim, it means like 3 layers of serialization or, well, API conversions between like kubelet to Docker, Docker to container API, and so on. So what we are talking potentially is something what users hard to notice, I would say.
I probably would suggest that the users that have performance concerns aren't going to be using Docker shim at this point. Like the CRI has been well supported for quite a long time. I took this one to API review, and there were pretty big concerns about always doing this internal conversion in the kubelet. Like we want to avoid doing that as much as possible. We don't really want to support 2 versions if possible. The biggest stepping block here is the fact that Containerd still doesn't have support for V1. But because they're identical at this point, probably the easiest path forward is to support both for now, fall back if the runtime doesn't have V1, and then as soon as V1 and V1 Alpha 2 diverge, drop V1 Alpha 2 support.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
And yeah, I want to echo what Ilana says, like all high performance customers, like a lot of high performance customers already switched to Containerd. So that may be, I mean, we may affect people who like Kubernetes the most. Okay, next item is mine. I wanted to just advertise this caps that I wrote for test label cleanup. I already presented the document like as it was in Google Doc, and then I took some time to write a cap because other priorities. But yeah, if you have cycles to review some of the cleanup proposals, please do. I would really appreciate it. And it's written as cap for test SIG testing, mostly because it started as a SIG Node only cleanup, and we didn't want to do any caps or any clarification, but investigation shows that we may extend it a little bit more, and that's why like it is a cap, so we can raise awareness across other SIGs as well. Okay, and the last one is Mark and Ravi.
Yeah, I'm asking on behalf of Ravi, who couldn't make it. We were just wondering if the node kubelet serial tests, it looks like, so we added some tests to that, and at least the last time I checked, they were timing out pretty regularly. So I was just wondering if who could look at the tests to see.
What tests are timing out?
Let me check. Oh, it looks like they're actually running now, but for a couple of days, all of the tests were the tests were failing to come up, like no tests were running.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of improvements there.
Fixed.
So some of the improvements I can highlight here is we're getting rid of dynamic kubelet config in tests. So some topology manager tests were affected, and it was fixed. And then we've been doing some, like we actually removed dynamic kubelet config tests from a test suite because they were taking a lot of time and they were flaky. So now it's supposed to be way greener. And if you're interested, join our CI SIG Node meeting. It's typically at Thursdays or like Wednesdays at that same time. And sometimes it's 8 a.m. at Thursday. But this week it will be tomorrow at the same time. So you can join this meeting and discuss all the test failures and what we're doing.
Okay, I'll see if I have time. But it does look like as of sometime yesterday, things got much cleaner.
Yeah, so another PR follow-up was from dynamic kubelet config like removal, and I think it made things greener.
Okay, thank you. That was my concern.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up. With that, we are at the end of agenda. Is there any other topics for today? Okay, I want to remind everybody that code freeze is November 16th. So if you have your favorite bug that needs to be fixed or some KEP needs to need review, please pay attention and help each other. Thank you, everybody. We're getting half an hour back.
Yeah. And also, the docs
on.
deadlines for enhancements is pretty tight this release, especially for people in the US who are working on Thanksgiving. So get your docs PRs open early.
Yeah,
thanks for the heads up, Mark.
Yep. Yeah, I think they want the PRs reviewable by the 23rd and merged by the 30th.
I'll make sure to add an announcement for next agenda.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, folks. Bye.